Hi, and thank you for listening. This is Sherry Andrea, and I appreciate you. If you're looking for me, you can find me at sherryspeaks.com, where you can find 80 plus attunements. You can also find things like services like psychic reading, coaching. And I did fix the certificate creator. So if you don't have a Reiki certificate, there's like 80 plus certificates you can get, and right now they are, if I get this right, $1.75. So whether you need it for you or somebody that you attuned, they're beautiful certificates, and many of you have seen the certificates that I used to do by hand. Well, they look exactly the same, and the great thing is, no, you don't have to wait for me to actually do them to send them to you. It's a program. You put in your information, your dates, everything, and it shows you a proof. So you do get to see what it looks like before you pay the $1.75. And then if the proof is okay, then you go on, you pay the $1.75, and right then and there, as soon as you pay for it, it comes up on screen for you to download it. It is in PDF format. So, I mean, of course, if you don't want it in PDF format, if you want it in like JPEG or something like that, once you get it up on the screen, all you have to do is take a screenshot of it and save it as a JPEG. Or you can use an online converter. If you Google convert PDF to JPEG, you can just use an online converter to convert it. But I'm really happy that I got it fixed. It had been a while. Oh, excuse me, my stomach is growling and I'm not hungry. Anyway, so that's at sherryspeaks.com. You can also contact me through the contact page. You can make a donation at sherryspeaks.com/donate, and I would appreciate it if you like this video. Please do subscribe. If you'd like to donate, like I said, go to sherryspeaks.com /donate, and there you have several different ways to donate, from cashapp. And I think in another video I actually said the wrong thing for the cashapp. The cashapp is $ Sherry Speaks, not $ Sherry Andrea, but it's $ Sherry Speaks. So there's different ways to donate, cashapp, PayPal, or just on my website directly with your debit or credit card, whatever you prefer. Okay, so let's get right down to it, because I think I'm kind of excited about what I'm going to be talking about. Struggling with socializing. And the reason why I thought of this is because just like so many others, and I have friends who are not only psychic, I have a friend that's, been studying and practicing astrology, and we're kind of both the same. We're kind of like, we have abilities, but we're also on a spiritual path. And but it's like the people that are around us, closest to us, that really should know us the best, don't know us at all. And sometimes it gets frustrating. And a lot of times, this is the other reason why I thought of this topic, why I wanted to talk about it, is because often when I'm doing a reading or a coaching session, I hear the same thing from many people. They'll tell me that they're at this point in their life where, they're opening up, they've gone through an awakening, they're opening up their abilities, they're working on themselves, they're advancing spiritually, and they feel alone. They don't quite fit with the friends they used to have, but they also haven't made new friends yet that are a match for who they are now. So they're in that in-between place where you really do kind of feel alone, sometimes wishing you just had somebody that understood you, and that understood what you were into, what you were doing, what you were going through, to talk to. Or at least somebody that wasn't pushing against you. So, and that's what I'm talking about, the struggle with socializing. Many times what happens is, even though you're like, oh, I just want people in my life, I want people that I can talk to about the things that I'm now interested in. But the thing is, it's like, go slow, because as you're growing, you're learning, you're advancing, and you start to meet new people, but you're still engaging with the people you were like friends, friends that you've had for a while, neighbors, coworkers. It's not unusual to find yourself being offended all the time. All the time. Um, I have I know people, I'm trying not to call anybody out. I know people that offend me on a like a regular basis, that actually question me, like, that it has me wondering, like, does this person think I'm a bad person? And then, when you think of how much you've worked on yourself, how much you learned and grew over a certain period of time, and you're like, but this person still like thinks what? I'm crap. They think, I can't be trusted. They question me, like they're not sure about me. And it's like you almost want to be offended, but you hold back. And I always do. I always hold back. But a lot of times I think, I wish they could hear themselves. I wish they could step outside of themselves and hear themselves. So what I want to say is, you are going to struggle, but this is the only thing you have to be careful of, is that you don't totally like lay down, that you don't totally go too passive. That's often the problem, is that you want to be passive because you've learned so much, and you're like, oh, I've learned so much, and I understand what their problem is, and why they're behaving the way they are, why they're talking to me the way they are. And so you want to go passive because you're like, I get it, I understand. But you got to be careful. You don't want to go so passive that you're basically letting people walk all over you. You do have to, I usually say pick your battles, but you do have to check in with your higher self and go, okay, is this one I should speak up? Is this the time I should speak up? Or do I let this one go? Do I not say anything? Do I just sit passively and just listen and keep nodding my head? And often, yeah, that is what you're going to do. You're going to keep being passive and sitting there and kind of nodding your head and going, yeah, I understand. And you're going to be understanding and, all those things. But there is a time when you need to speak up. There's a time when you need to sometimes let a person know, you've said, this, or questioned me in this way so many times, and it's starting to like kind of offend me or hurt my feelings a little bit. It's nothing wrong with letting a person know what they're putting you through, I guess, what they're doing, because you're not trying to you're not trying to be mean to them. And in a way, you will help them to grow. You will help them, because they're just reacting. They're just acting and reacting and not even thinking about what they're saying, what they're doing. And so you may be helping them to become more aware and to stop and to even question themselves so that they can grow a little bit more. Especially if you explain yourself. I'm not saying, oh, know when not to be passive and fly off the handle. No, that's not what I'm saying. Anything that you have to say, you could say it in different ways. So whatever you can say in a mean way, you can say in a kind way. You can kindly explain to somebody what you think about, something maybe that they repeatedly say to you often. Or you can nicely and kindly say to somebody, well, I think that was a little bit harsh. And you can even laugh a little. Like, yeah, it was a little bit harsh. I'm laughing, so that lets them know, hey, I haven't pissed her off, or him off. I haven't totally pissed them off. They're not totally like mad at me and never going to speak to me again. But it is letting them know, hey, look, pull back up on this. You know what I mean? Like, you may want to, don't talk so much so fast that you don't even know what you're saying and you're just offending everybody. So, here's the thing. As you advance more and more, you will hit periods of time where you literally feel like that the majority of the people that you deal with and that are around you and that should know you the best, know you the least. You will hit that period of time where you feel like no one knows you. But it's okay. You don't because you don't stay in that place forever. I promise you don't. And it gets easier and easier to deal with. You do let people in a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and it gets better. Because I'm not even sure I know how to say this. Like, for example, if you're on a spiritual path, what you usually find is you end up becoming more passive than you used to be. And then people love that. And sometimes they'll take advantage of it. They'll always want you around. But you know why? Because now you're acting passive, which means you're basically sitting there letting them talk, spew on you, and they're having their way with you. And they're in their mind, they're probably thinking, this is great. This is better than paying for therapy. She's just going to sit there passively and just let me talk and talk and talk and throw all of my crap from the day at her. So you do want to be careful, because there are people out there that will take advantage of that. They will see that, I just love talking to her because she hardly says anything. This just gives me the opportunity to just talk and talk. I can repeat what I said yesterday and the day before and the day before. I could just, whatever I want to talk about, I just spew it out. And so you want to be careful with people who are going to do that to you. Sometimes on purpose. Sometimes they know what they're doing. But sometimes they don't know what they're doing. You can't always assume that what they're doing, that they're totally 100% aware of what they're doing to you, because a lot of times they're not. Sometimes you do have to kind of get out of your passive place and speak up and say, wait a minute, hold on, because you're talking so fast and you're skipping to another subject before I actually had something to say about that. I think I had something to contribute that might, might help you. And conversation is supposed to be balanced. It's supposed to be that back and forth, it's supposed to be the back and forth between the two of you. And when somebody there's a lot of people out there that selfishly will, in conversation, be very self-centered with you. And you don't want to keep letting that go on. You do want to stop it. And you're going to have to learn how to stop it in a nice way. And believe me, I'm not telling you that you're going to get this right, because I know in the beginning, when I first started trying to find my balance, I was offending people. Somebody would be over at my house and they'd be like, suddenly they'd be like, well, we're going to go. And I'd be like, oh, geez, here we go. Because I knew I was going to hear it the next day. And it was going to be thrown back on my face. And being an empath, a lot of times, I'm picking up stuff from, the people that are around me. And so whatever they feel coming back at them, it's not me. It's their own selves they feel coming back at them. And I would be like, oh, geez. They feel some kind of way about what I said, how I behaved, because they don't understand that I'm an empath, and it's coming back at them, but it's them. And so now I'm going to hear it the next day. Oh, well, we left because, we didn't know what you were going through and you were acting so strange. Yeah, you're going to end up being offended by, I can't call them that, because they don't know what they're doing. That's my point. They don't know. They don't know. They don't understand what an empath is. They don't understand 25%, more than 25% of what you know and what you've learned. That's what you're going to be dealing with now when you're dealing with people as you grow more and more. They don't even have a clue of who you are, how you operate. Even that, for those of you with abilities, they don't even understand that the whole time your higher self is feeding you information. You know when they're lying, when they're trying to con you, everything. And they don't get it. And this is what you're going to have to deal with. But, like I said, it's not impossible. Yeah, in the beginning, while you're trying to find your balance, yeah, you're going to piss some people off. Some people are going to piss you off. But you just got to hang in there. The most important thing is, don't throw in the towel. Don't get so upset or frustrated that you go, you know what, it's not worth it anymore. I'm just going to stay away from people from now on. That's what you don't want to do. Because you have to remember that in all of this, you're still spiritually growing. Your lessons that you were meant to learn in this lifetime are still being thrown at you. You don't want to accidentally avoid working on the lessons you're supposed to be working on. So you can't say that. You can't say, I'm just not doing this anymore. It's just too difficult. I'm too misunderstood by people. So I'm keeping my distance from everybody. Oh, I have to. I've heard this with empaths too. Oh, I have to. No, you don't have to. You don't. You can develop your empathy so that you can be able to control it, just like I did. There is never a reason why you should have to totally avoid everybody and everything. Now, like me, I love solitude. I love being alone. That's just how I've been all my life. It's funny, my father's always trying to convince me. He's like, you should get a regular traditional job, even if it's a part-time job. You need to be around people. It's unhealthy for you to not to be around people. And, I kind of smile on the inside because it's like, I know he's trying to help me. And then I also think, well, he's got like a psychology degree, sociology degree. And I'm like, I know he knows what he's talking about. But at the same time, it's like I feel like I know me. And I know how much I love solitude. Like, I know people who don't like being alone. Like, my neighbor, bless her heart, but she has a nice house and she's decorated it so nice. She hates being alone. And I'm like, such a nice house and you hate being in it only because, not because you don't like it, but because you don't like being alone. And sometimes needing to always have a lot of people around you can bring problems. It can. So there's nothing wrong if you just like solitude. I'm just telling you, you have to do solitude for the right reason though, because that's just who you are. But don't do it because you feel it's gotten too difficult dealing with people, or that you're too misunderstood by people. You're going to be misunderstood for a while, especially if you're an empath. You're really going to be misunderstood for a while. That's why, I do recommend to people to join like Facebook groups where they have somebody to talk about, like, I'm sure there's lots of Facebook groups for people that are empaths, for people who are psychically developing. I mean, so that you have somebody that gets you, that knows what you're going through, that understands what you're going through, that can be compassionate with you about it. That's what you need. But you don't want to bail totally on people, because this is where we get our lessons. Think about it. Anything that you can think of right now from your past, a bad incident you had with someone, if you think about it, you're like, yeah, that probably was a lesson. I probably learned something from that and was supposed to learn something from that. It probably didn't happen just by accident. It probably happened because it was supposed to, because I was supposed to learn from it. I know that everything that happens, everything I go through, it's a lesson. I'm supposed to learn from it. And I know that I can't avoid learning from it just because some of the lessons are difficult, are trying, are stressful. You can't avoid it. And it's better to just face it head on, deal with it. It's only going to be a headache for a little while. And, that's what we have friends for. I mean, when I go through things with people, I have my friends and I get on the phone with them and I'll be like, let me tell you what happened. I want to tell you what happened and how I handled it. And I'd like your, honest feedback. That's what I do. And we do that for each other, and we give each other honest feedback. Sometimes they'll tell me, I felt like you could have, you could have been less passive. You should have spoken up for yourself. Sometimes they'll actually say to me, no, I think you handled it right. And I'm like, I wasn't being too passive. They're like, no, actually it was good in that case because, the person you were dealing with, they got problems. And, I think that, you got to recognize who you're dealing with. And you got to know who to cut slack to, So, any friends you have, that's what they're supposed to be there for you. You're supposed to be helping each other like that. Being, that person who's going to be totally straightforward and honest with you. Of course, it needs to be a person that can handle that. And not get offended by the truth. And you have to not get offended by the truth either. If somebody tells you handled something, they think you handled something incorrectly, just listen. You may not be able to take that as truth today. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe 2 weeks from now. Hey, maybe not months from now. You won't be able to take that as truth. But at some point, maybe you will. You don't always have to accept what somebody is suggesting to you right away. It's okay for you to say to them, you know what? I need to ponder that one a little while. I'm not sure whether, I'm on board with that or not. I got to ponder it for a while. There's nothing wrong with that. People appreciate it when you're honest with them and you let them know, hey, I'm not sure. I got to think about what you just said. Usually people appreciate you saying that because they feel like what you're saying is, what you say to me is worth me putting some time into pondering it and thinking about it. But it's a struggle. But I just want to let you know, socialization, when you're changing and you're growing, it can be tough. There can be times when you feel like, oh my goodness, here I am, bawling, crying again today. You know what I mean? I went through that for a period of time where every day I was like broken down and crying, where I was like, oh my goodness, the angels and the masters must be shaking their head like, oh, here she go again. Is she crying again? But eventually you learn from it. You see through it. It gets better. And then you're able to deal with people better because you learn so much. And you eventually learn to the point where you're ready for it. You're so ready and prepared for it. Whatever's thrown at you, you're ready for it. So I just want to tell you, yeah, it's going to be hard. But don't avoid people. You need them. You need to get those lessons. You need to not only get lessons, but as you're learning things and you're growing, you need to incorporate the things you're learning into your life. That requires people to do that. You still need people, no matter what their behavior is, even if they're self-centered, even if they don't listen to you, so they don't really know you. You still need them so that you can learn and grow. You can practice what you're learning. If you're trying to practice being a little bit more passive, thinking before you speak, being non-reactory, who are you going to do that with? Your dog, your cat? No, you do need people to be able to do these things with. So that's all I want to say. Feel free to share some of the experiences that you're dealing with, or some of the tough ones, because we always run into the ones that we end up dealing with, and it's okay, and we run into the ones that are just tough, that we're just like, oh, I'm repeating the same thing with the same person, and I don't seem to move forward on it. Feel free to share what you're experiencing, the newest thing maybe you learned, or even that moment that you surprised yourself and you were like, I was shocked. I realized I wasn't reacting like I normally did, that I realized that I changed. I wasn't reacting like the old me. And you have to be careful too. You have to remember, people are used to who you were. They're still expecting you to behave the same way you did. So for a period of time, they are like, if you were a person that always used to fly off the handle and get easily mad and agitated, that's what they're expecting. It's going to take them a while before they realize you've changed, that you're different. And at first they may not trust it. They may think, okay, what's the trick? Is she just like waiting to pounce on me when I'm not expecting it? What's the trick? Yeah, people, it takes a little while for them to realize that you really have changed. You really are different. So, if people are behaving kind of weird with you, you're like, okay, I'm talking, but they're not responding back. They're kind of just staring at me and not saying anything. They're trying to figure out what to make of what's going on. It's kind of like they're going, okay, who is this person? Why is she behaving differently? What's going on? Or the one that I really liked, that I thought was actually kind of funny, if you're a person that used to always be over emotional, get easily and quickly upset, play the victim, always, never to accept responsibility, blame other people. When you change, because you've grown in so many ways, and you're no longer that person, but they're still expecting you to be. Let's say you get into a disagreement with somebody, and in the beginning, it's not really a disagreement, it's just a discussion you're having where you're not agreeing with each other, where you're on opposing views, right? But now, as you won't agree with the other person's getting more and more upset, talking louder and louder. Don't be surprised if they then suddenly stop, look at you, and go, why are you yelling? When you're not even yelling. Why? Because that was your old behavior. that's how you always used to behave, and that is what they're still expecting. So much so that they still see it. They still swear it's happening, even when it's not. But you've got to give them a chance to actually see that you don't do that anymore. Do you know it was probably, I don't know how many years that it took for my parents to like notice that I didn't behave the way I used to. But they were still dealing with me like I was the old me. Can you imagine? Okay, you know how you're watching like, let's say a TV show. Okay, let's use this TV show as an example. You remember the TV show Roseanne? And one of the characters was Becky. Now, I think in season 1 and 2, I think it was, or 1, Becky was played by a certain actress. And you know how they do this? They do this on soap operas too, right? But then maybe the next season starts, and it's a different actress playing Becky, right? And maybe third season, the original actress will come back. And that is what happened with the Becky character. But imagine in season 2, and this is exactly how it happened. Season 2, there's a new actress playing Becky. Doesn't even look the same, right? What happens in the TV show? Everything goes on as though nothing's different. As though that's the same Becky. So that is how it is. It's like, what if I had a twin and we're nothing alike? You know, our personalities are different and everything, but we look alike. And I said, hey, switch lives with me for one day. Okay. And they step in. And now people should notice the change in behavior, right? You would think. People would be like, well, wait, you look like Sherry, but you're not behaving like Sherry. What's going on? But what I'm telling you is that people are actually going to treat you like you're the old you. Like they don't realize there's anything different. It's like somebody new has stepped in, but they didn't notice. And this can go on for a while with some people. With some people, they can literally not notice that you've changed and that you're different for years. Until finally one day something happens that's like so huge that they finally recognize it, they finally see it. You know, but I just want to give you that heads up, that warning, because that is what happens. It takes a little while. I still got people that treat me like the old me. The only ones, I'm going to be honest with you, and this is kind of embarrassing, but I'm going to be honest with you. The only ones that really bother me is ex-boyfriends from when I was in my early 20s that whenever they call me to do that, hi, how you doing? They act like we're 20 years old again. Like they're even like, oh my goodness, like saying inappropriate things like, you know, they did when we were in our 20s, you know, that are inappropriate things, because I'm 55. I'm not 20 years old anymore. So it is kind of like a little bit embarrassing having an ex-boyfriend from when I was 20 years old acting and treating me like we're 20 again. Like in saying sexual things like we're 20 years old again. It's kind of embarrassing. It's very annoying. And I think it's disrespectful. I really do. I think it's very disrespectful to not have like respect for, like, you know, even if a person hasn't changed very much, but you knew them when they were 20, are you still, or you knew them when they were 15, are you still going to treat them like a 15-year-old? Of course not. If they're 50 now, you're not going to treat them like a 15-year-old. You're going to treat them, you know, respectfully, like the age they are, right? Well, I'm telling you right now, what you're going to find is a lot of people are going to treat you like how they remember you to be, how you'd always been. People actually don't actually allow you a lot of room for growth and change. That's one thing you'll notice. It's very odd. People are always saying how they want people to change, but the honest to goodness truth is people don't actually allow a lot of room for people to grow and change. You literally almost have to force a person to let you, because they want to keep treating you like how you've been all along, how you used to be. But like I said, you just got to hang in there, and you got to know, if you just keep hanging in there, keep being true to yourself, who you are now. Don't revert back. Don't act different just because you're not used to who you are now. No, don't do that. And trust me, everything will be okay. Given a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, everything will be all right. The struggle will not last indefinitely. Thank you for listening. I appreciate your time. Remember, if you have examples of things you'd like to share, I'd not only like to hear them, in the comments, but also I'm sure everybody else that's watching would love to hear them too, because a lot of us, we're all dealing with some of the same things, and sometimes it helps to hear how other people are dealing with it. What things have you tried that worked really well? Share that, because you'll not only be, you could be helping me, you could be helping somebody else who's listening and who's reading the comments. But just make sure you keep it positive. I appreciate you, and I look forward to speaking with you again. Have a great rest of your day. Namaste.